What's up, everybody? It's the Wager Alarm live stream. I'm Adam Ronis, joined with my buddy and known him a long time. It is Craig Mish. Craig, it's great to be here with you.
Man, it's been a long time since you and I have done work together, huh? It feels like it's been too long, right?
It's been way too long. We always had a lot of fun back in the day. So, what a better time to be here than tonight. And we're gonna go over first with the Golden Nugget picks. And I know you're big into college football. It's not my thing. I'm not the expert here, so I'm gonna rely on you for these Golden Nugget picks in college football.
Well, if you relied on me last week, you would have a hard time paying the rent over in your house there. We had a rough week last week in college. I think our worst week ever, honestly. We didn't win a game last week. Now, the Golden Nugget, as most people know, Adam, is 7 plays in both college and pro football. And so we picked those games against the spread. The Super Contest, the WestGate Super Contest, is 5 picks against the spread, and those are all in the NFL. And every single time after we do these picks, you can find the tickets and the games that we place over at wageralarm.com. So feel free, Adam, to throw any of these 4 games at me, and I'll tell you which ones we're going with today. And obviously, Adam knows already because we've already sent him the picks for this week.
Yeah, let's start off with Purdue and Nebraska. The line there is 7.5. Which way are you going?
Yeah, so this is the first pick of the week. We're going to take Purdue. 2 weeks ago, of course, they pulled off the big upset at Iowa. Nebraska, to me, still one of the more overrated teams in the Big 12. Don't really kind of understand, or Big 10 now, but really don't understand why the Cornhuskers are this much of a favorite. I kind of followed the line all week long. It still seems to be right around that 7.5, 8. I was hoping maybe we could get an extra half point here, but 2 weeks ago we took them and watched the game, thought they looked really good. I kind of feel like this is a low-scoring game where Purdue basically is in a position at the end of the game maybe even to win. Their field goal kicking seems to be pretty solid. It helped them out in games to cover this year. Nebraska, not the best team against the spread perennially, tend to be overvalued a little bit. But look, no doubt the Cornhuskers have been a better team this season. Purdue has been very good on the road, so why not take them again? So our first play, Adam, is going to be taking the Boilermakers plus the 7.5.
All right, next up we have Kentucky favored by 1 over Mississippi State. Who do you have in this one?
Yeah, Mississippi State is now favored in this game. This line has flipped completely from pick'em to favorites. We generally, as a rule of thumb, like to take favorites when they're going up against ranked teams, and Kentucky is that. The benefit for Kentucky here in this game is probably the fact that they're coming off a bye week. The negative is that for whatever reason, under Mark Stoops, they're just 4-6 off byes, and even worse, 3-7 against the spread coming off the bye. The other part of this is that Kentucky's had a really hard time playing in Starkville. They got up for that game a couple of weeks ago against Georgia and just got smashed. So at this point, they're just kind of playing for a bowl game at this point. They beat Florida a few weeks ago, so that puts them, of course, ahead of Florida in the SEC East. But I think that this is a game where Mississippi State gets a little love here. And again, when they see the spread flip as much as it has, it sort of tells me something, especially in the Southeastern Conference. I don't see any injuries either way on either side of the ball in this game. But I think Mississippi State's probably a little bit better than they're getting credit for. So we'll take the point here. But again, for those of you who tail us and are betting these games, you're going to be laying Mississippi State with a point right now. So our second play will be getting 1 for Mississippi State hosting Kentucky.
Oklahoma, 20-point favorites over Texas Tech. Which side are you on here?
Right. Well, this one is interesting because Oklahoma last week played against Kansas, and they looked horrible for about 2.5 quarters, and then all of a sudden turned it up. They didn't end up covering that game against Kansas, but they ended up winning. They've got the young quarterback playing now, Caleb Williams. They're ranked in the top 4. They've got a really good shot of getting in the playoff if they continue to win. But Oklahoma still is lacking defensively. And the other thing that just seems to happen, Adam, in college football and pro football, really in pro sports in general, is that teams tend to respond, players tend to respond more for whatever reason when coaches are let go or fired. This has happened already twice in college football this season. Clay Helton at USC. They ended up picking up a win against the spread. They won by about 30 when they brought in their interim coach. Same thing happened last week. Washington State's coach decided for whatever reason he didn't want to get vaccinated. They got rid of him. Players showed up. They covered. Texas Tech fired their coach this past week. We're going to roll with the same thing here. You cannot find any plus 20s anymore. There's mostly plus 18s out there. I just don't think Oklahoma is very good, and certainly we're going to ride a trend like this. So we're going to take Texas Tech almost plus 3 touchdowns in this game and hope it stays closer than that.
All right, next up we have Stanford 2.5-point favorites at Washington. Which side are you on here?
All right, so this is an interesting one because Washington in general has just looked as bad as I can ever remember them looking this season. And I'm not saying that Stanford is all that much better. In fact, Stanford, who's been known for being able to run the ball very well through the years, they've just had a really hard time running the ball, all season long. But Arizona, Adam, is basically considered, if not the worst team in Power 5 to be one of. And they gave Washington a really hard time last week. I think that was a really bad sign. Washington ended up winning that game. So again, it's a very small number here that you have to lay. I've seen mostly 2.5 all week long. But I just think that the Huskies at this point are playing for next year, playing a lot of young players on their college football roster that we may see more in 2023. So Stanford playing at home, still sort of an outside chance they could play for something in January, but it really, they would have to have virtually every game the rest of the year. And again, in reviewing the game last week with Washington and Arizona, every team in college football has beaten Arizona by like 3 touchdowns, and they almost beat Washington. So I know that's not the strongest betting narrative to have. This team couldn't beat this team, so that's why we're taking this team. But I just haven't been impressed with what I've seen from Washington, and they've been a really strong program now for almost 2 decades, but this is not their year. So Stanford minus the short number here very late tomorrow night. And those are our 4 college football picks in the Golden Nugget.
All right, now we got 3 in the NFL, and I agree with the first one you have here. You're taking Detroit getting 3.5 against Philadelphia. I mean, Philadelphia has just looked terrible this year. The Lions have been pretty competitive in some of their games. I mean, some of them are misleading. Week 1, they were getting blown up by San Francisco. They came back. We know they gave the Rams a game last week and covered, but it's just hard to trust Philly. And the Lions have come out and played hard. So I'm with you on this. What are your reasonings for taking Detroit getting the 3.5 in this spot?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think that Philadelphia has a lot of interest in winning the rest of the season. I think that when they look at their roster and they look at their record, I think they're awfully close to benching Jalen Hurts and playing Gardner Minshew. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but I really feel like it's getting closer to that. Jalen Hurts' numbers, as you know, in fantasy have been fantastic, and the reason why is only because they're trailing by 3 touchdowns in every game, late in the game. And by the way, trailing being down like 17-3, or 20-7. It hasn't been like their defense has given up 40 points until last week against the Raiders. You're right. Detroit definitely has played more competitive. Last week is not really a good indication of that because they basically threw every trick in the book out of the Rams just to keep that thing close for a half. Can't really rely on that. Week before they get destroyed, I believe it was 35-7 or 35-0, something like that. But it's more of an indictment on Philadelphia. And by the way, nothing wrong with that. When Philadelphia looks up at the standings, I know that Prescott's questionable. We'll talk about him in a minute. I think they look at their team and they say, my gosh, there's just so many. The organization probably looks at this, there's just so many teams that are better than us right now. And could they sneak in as a 9-8 team or an 8-9 team, given the 17 schedule, given the extra playoff team? Yeah, I think that there's a chance of that. But they laid down last week, I'm sorry, against the Raiders. And the Raiders, are sort of hit or miss. But, yeah, I think Detroit keeps this thing very close. Obviously, they'll have a chance to win. It's probably, Adam, their best chance to win, I think, in the next 4 or 5 games. So we'll take the points here with the Lions.
Next up, you have Washington playing in Denver. The line is 3. I don't really have a strong feel on this game, but clearly you do. Where is it and why?
Yeah, we fade Denver. That's basically our deal here. Yeah, we're not big on the Broncos. Now, listen, we did take the first. Whenever Denver plays at home, you have to be careful because teams tend to wear down at altitude in the second half. But that's only valid in September. Once teams get to October and November, they're conditioned to play there. Denver, to me, Adam, is one of the most conservative, poorly coached teams in the NFL. To me, Teddy Bridgewater and the talent they have around them offensively is enough to do more than what they're doing. But the problem is that the coaching staff just never seems to have faith to let it go, whether it's been with Locke or it's been with Bridgewater. If you've watched Washington's games, they've given them away, and they may give this game away in Denver too, but they've had chances. They throw the ball. I mean, Heineke throws the ball in the end zone. It gets intercepted. Gibson gets into the red zone and he fumbles. But eventually those things, I think, even out. I mean, those interceptions and fumbles and turnovers, to me, that's not really a skill. I think it's just kind of unlucky because, again, the defender could drop the ball. The player can hang on to the ball. And so I just don't think the Broncos deserve to be favored in any NFL game this season. They've looked as bad as any NFL team since that 3-0 start. And now when you look at the three teams that they've beaten, they're the three worst teams in the NFL. So we're simply going to just take a shot here. We know the game is going to be late. It's going to be 21-20 probably with 2 minutes to go. And we'll hope that in that case, Washington is the team that's able to close it out. But I've watched Washington played very well in the first half against Kansas City as well. So, I think there's a shot here that they win this game, and it's going to be on both of our picks here, the Nugget and the SuperContest. So +3.
Yeah, I had Washington last week. I thought that was a bad beat. They moved the ball on Green Bay. They outgained them, and they were atrocious in the red zone. The Heineke slide before the goal line. He didn't get the ball over the line on the sneak. Ricky Seals-Jones was pass interference. They didn't call on the end zone target. They should have at least covered in that game. So, yeah, I felt that was a bad beat.
They've had some bad luck. They're not good.
Definitely.
They're not good, but they've had some bad luck. And again, is Washington going to go, Adam, are they going to go 3-14 against the spread this season? No, they're going to cover a few games. We think this is one of them.
All right, next up, this game has obviously switched. You got this early in the week, Vikings getting 1.5 against Dallas. That line is now Minnesota favored by 3. That broke last night, which indicates to me, and I'm sure you believe the same, that Dak Prescott's not going to play. They list him as questionable. They're going to see how it goes on Saturday. But, is this a gift that everyone's going to take?
Yes, and so that's the deal here, is that this doesn't happen a lot over the course of the season. But the lines lock in both the Golden Nugget and the SuperContest, Adam, on Wednesday night. They lock. And then this news really started percolating late into Wednesday night and Thursday. We have determined that in playing in these contests through the years, if we got to the last week of the season and this was going on and we were in contention to win money, Adam, we would fade this and we would take Dallas.
Game theory.
We would go the other way. But we're not there yet. We're still climbing and in the standings and trying to pick up as many wins as we can right now. It is only week 8. So we are going to take that free pick. We are going to take that line move. And yes, you're right. Minnesota is now up to -3. I think that on game day, once they announce Dak is out, I think it's going to go to 4 or 4.5. I think it's going to be more than, and maybe even more than that. But most people the smart people seem to think there's another 1.5 here going on Minnesota once Cooper Rush is announced the starter. But they're holding that +3 and -3 just in case it ends up happening. But we're gonna throw that dart here at Minnesota, and we're gonna try and take our points and take the Vikings in both the Golden Nugget and the SuperContest.
Yeah, it's a massive downgrade to Cooper Rush, who's barely played in the NFL. And
2 years in a row. What are Dallas doing? No backup.
I said the same thing. I'm a Cowboys fan. Like, how do you not have a solid backup? You have a great team. Defensively, they've been fortunate with the turnovers. You can still move the ball on them. That's why I think Minnesota's going to put up points. They've been winning because they're forcing turnovers. A lot of it is they're up big, and it allows the pass rush to tee off, and teams are throwing interceptions because Trayvon Diggs keeps picking passes off. But, it's just look, from a Dallas perspective, it makes sense. You got to sit Dak. The division is in hand. You can't worry about seeding. You cannot risk Dak going out there and aggravating this calf and missing 6, 7, 8 weeks, because then they're in trouble. So the division, I think, plays a part in this. Yeah,
it's just strange that even off the bye, he's not able to come back here. So I
had this feeling. I said it a couple of days ago. I'm like, I don't know. And I know I saw doctors say, it seems like he's fine, but who knows? Maybe he pushed himself too hard in practice. But
I'll tell you, if you watched, a part of what we do on my Sports Grid show is we watch the press conferences and stuff. If you watched McCarthy talk, I'm not suggesting anybody does that, but if you watched him talk, you would have thought Dak is not playing this week. On Wednesday, seriously, like he was like, "Oh, we're getting Cooper Rush ready." It's like, "Oh my gosh!" And the follow-up questions were like, "No, we're going to have him ready. We just don't know." And it didn't seem to really hit until Thursday, but on Wednesday, it did feel like that was coming. Again, if we're in contention last week of the season and we need to go 4-1 or 5-0, and we were 3-2 last week, 3-2 the week before that. But if we're in the end and we're about to cash for a few $1,000s, and the only way to do it is to go opposite everybody else, of course, that's what we're going to do. But we're not there yet. It's nowhere close to that. And yes, Minnesota's going to be the most picked team in the Super Contest for sure.
Yeah. All right. So those are the picks for the Golden Nugget. Let's look at the WestGate Super Contest now. And you have some of the similar NFL picks. You also got Lions plus 3.5 there, Washington plus 3, and the Vikings plus 1.5. Rams and Texans. This line has moved a little bit now that Davis Mills will start for the Texans, but it was here 14.5 Rams over the Texans. Who do you like there?
Yeah, Rams are 16. I expect this to go even higher. This will be the biggest line of any game we've laid all season long, maybe almost in 2 years. But look, the reality is Houston is terrible. Houston right now, to be Adam, they've hit that point where they're Miami from 2 years ago in the first few games of the season. For whatever reason, Houston came out of the gate this year kind of playing okay. Like, I mean, maybe it was Tyrod Taylor in the first game.
Yeah, but it was.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's the reason why. But at this point, if you're on Houston and you're in that game and you're a player, all you're thinking of is, oh my gosh, let me stay healthy for free agency. Let me stay healthy with the off chance I get to be traded on Tuesday of next week. I just think that after playing competitively in the first half last week, they completely shut it down. It's a shame that the worst team in the NFL, they probably won't win another game. They already have a win. They probably won't win another game the rest of the year. Last week, a little bit of a wake up there with the Rams, seeing, kind of how they got worked a little bit by Dan Campbell. I don't expect that to happen again this week. And I think that we haven't seen the last of a 20-point spread in the NFL. I think it's going to come with Houston again this year. So we're only laying 14.5. Kickoff, I would guess 16.5, 17. So yeah, we're going to lay the big line. It was really between laying this big one and laying Buffalo.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Yeah, but in the end, that's a division game, Adam, and I hate doing that in division games. Those go sideways sometimes.
Yeah, I always feel that way about divisional games too. Even though Buffalo's coming off the bye, they lost to Tennessee. They already beat Miami 35-0. But I understand that if you're looking for a tiebreaker, and it'd be shocking if the Rams fell flat in this game.
Yeah, Tua is capable of keeping them in a game. This guy is not capable of that.
No, definitely not. They're if you look at the offensive numbers with him, it's absolutely atrocious. I don't know how he fared that well against New England. Like, how did that happen?
I don't know. I mean, New England's offense, I don't know. They'd like to run the ball. I don't know. Good question.
And the final pick here, we got the Saints and the Bucks. Very intriguing game. So here, when this came out, it was 5.5 Bucks favorite. I've seen that line's now 4.5. Who do you like in this one?
Yeah, so this is, of all of the picks, this is the one that's last. I mean, that's just the truth, is that you get to the point where you feel like you're so great on everything, and then you have to figure out, okay, it's like, wow, like it's tough. And they're all tough, don't get me wrong, but this was the one. It's like, all right, now if my calculations are correct, the Saints last year fared well against the Bucks in the regular season, correct? Like, they looked really good against them. Mm-hmm. It is dangerous. It's a dangerous play because it's Brady, and if you watched last week and you're thinking about fading that team, you're probably crazy. But I think that Sean Payton must have a fairly strong defensive game plan to keep this game within reason, to keep this game within a point or two or three. This is a perfect example, and I say this every once in a while on a live stream like this. You're going to know in the first quarter and second quarter if the Saints have a shot in this game. If the game is 13-7 Bucks at the half, the Saints are going to cover the game. If they're down 21-3, they're not. And so based on last year, based on this being the one team that seemed to have them figured out defensively, you have to hope that they have this exact same game plan that they had against Seattle, which is just run first, second, and third. Every once in a while, let Winston throw a pass, and obviously hoping that Kamara, after what Peyton did last week with Kamara, just do the same thing. Just get this guy the ball, let him get his 6 yards, run that play clock all the way down to 2. You see Winston hiking that thing right before every time, just shortening the game. Denver does that too, but for what they're down in games, I don't know why they do it. But New Orleans has been doing it and just kind of shortening all the games this year because their defense is actually better than their offense.
And they
I'm
don't
not going to
trust
look
Winston.
at Tampa's personnel and just pick, all because they don't have Gronk or Antonio Brown. Come on, that's nonsense. They're still an amazing team, much better at home than on the road. We've seen that too. So we'll take a little. I mean, it's kind of hard to say value, but we are getting an extra 1.5 here than what the current line is. So we'll take that, and that'll be the final pick in the Super Contest.
Yeah, Saints are 9-5 against the spread as home underdogs under Sean Payton since 2006 as well. They definitely have the good defense. And, if they might let Winston throw a little bit in this game, too, because that secondary is banged up for Tampa. I mean, it's not ideal. It's not what they want to do. And it is a revenge game for Winston if you love those narratives, like many people do.
There's always a revenge game for everybody. I am the anti-Winston. I just, going into the year, I just did not like him, did not think he would be good. It's painful for me to take the Saints here. But I love fading teams that won the week before like 41-0. I love that because there's got to be a little bit of an overreaction about the way that you feel about that team. And when was the last time, Adam, that the Saints opened a line at 5.5-point underdogs at home? I mean, how long has it been? I mean, never under Drew Brees. I mean, that's for sure.
And look, they have the good defense. And as you said, Tampa has struggled on the road. The game against New England, I know it was raining, but they didn't cover there. They only put up 19 points. Even against Philadelphia, it wasn't easy, and they got destroyed by the Rams, who I know are one of the top teams. But I could see the Saints keeping this close. But you are right. You'll kind of know early on. If Tampa Bay's offense is marching down the field, then you know you're in trouble. You need them to get pressure on Brady. And limit things. And if that's the case, then you're like, all right, we got a shot, and especially if you can get a turnover.
Yeah, 3-0 Saints, 7-3 Bucks, 7-6 Bucks, 10-6 Bucks, 13-10 Saints, 17-13 Bucks, 20-30. Just keep me within that touchdown range, so the Saints kick a field goal somewhere to get that little crooked number down a little bit over a field goal, and they are at home. So I think that that summarizes it.
All right, Craig, always good working with you. I was glad I could fill in tonight and go over these picks. And you can check everything out at wageralarm.com. Thanks for joining us, and good luck this weekend.
All right. Thank you.